Welcome into the MLB betting show first pitch opening day. We're breaking it down, guys. We got the day games for opening day on today's show. We're doing the night games on tomorrow's show. I'm Drew Martin, the host, joined by Bryan, Leonard, and Dave Cokin of WagerTalk.com. We're breaking down 4 games today, guys. We got the Toronto Blue Jays, New York Yankees, Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, Tampa Bay Rays, and Miami Marlins. Bets at the end. First, let's go around. Dave Cokin, welcome in, buddy. Excited for opening day?
Yeah, been watching a lot of preseason baseball and eager to see the real thing begin. Should mention I've got a couple of things to promote. We're running out of time on the first one, which is the full season special. It's discounted to $895. That also includes the rest of the NHL season. And I'm number 1 in baseball from last year. And I guess number 1 in hockey for the last 2 seasons combined. So they're obviously 2 strong sports for me. So that's $895 if you're not willing to make a full season commitment. I've got 2 opening day selections that they're posted now. And normally those would be $25 each, both plays for just $19. No big plays. I don't want to mislead anybody. I'm not firing any 5 stars out of the gate. But I do like these plays, and they're both up right now on my homepage for only $19.
Check them out, Dave Cokin, experts page at WagerTalk.com. We also got Bryan Leonard here. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
I meant to say this early on. This has nothing to do with promoting anything, but one of the things that's come out of spring training and for the past several years is looking at home run rates and strikeout rates, because this is generally a good indication of what's going to happen in the regular season. Now, they supposedly have dejuiced the baseball, not based on the numbers in spring training this year. Home run rate is up, strikeout rate is up. That should be an indication that we're going to see a lot of high-scoring games and that power numbers are going to continue to rise. So this dejuice the baseball thing might be a myth. And that's
something I've
all
read
I
a
have
lot
to
on.
say on that.
Yeah, it's going to be a big part of the handicap, especially totals there, betting this season in MLB. But let's bring Bryan in. Bryan Leonard, WagerTalk.com. Bryan, welcome in, buddy. How you feeling?
I'm doing well. I want to counter Dave a little bit because I've read pitchers have come out and said they're able to grip the ball better this year than they have in the past. So I think even though they played those spring training games, it's still a small sample size. And that's what we're going to run into a lot early on in the season. I do want to point out, every guy we're going to have on this show, Dave, myself, the other guys that are going to be on the show, they've all had great baseball seasons. They're all known for their baseball handicapping. So whether you choose Dave, myself, anybody else, you're getting quality handicappers out there. And today is the last day for these early bird specials. I have that one out right now with Dwayne, Bryan, and myself. 2 for 1, basically. You're getting it, I think, for $8.95 starting tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, first day of the regular season. Not only are you going to get only one of us, but you're probably going to get regular season prices, which are going to go up. So if you're looking to buy anybody, you'll want to do it today. You really want to save. And all these guys are really good handicappers. You'll save a ton of money by playing for the season as opposed to buying every day.
All right, Bryan, well said. Guys, let's get into the games going in order of first pitch here. Starting off in the AL East, we got 1:05 Eastern time first pitch here on ESPN, nationally televised game here. We got the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees. We're seeing Ryu versus Cole, the righty-lefty matchup here. Seeing 7.5 as the posted total, -178. A little bit of a heavy favorite here for the Yankees, Dave. Coming to you first, we got the Blue Jays, Yankees. A lot of people projecting here good seasons for both teams, especially the Yankees. How would you look to bet this first game of the MLB season, Dave?
Well, the first thing I always do is look at the starting pitching. And in this matchup, Ryu is absolutely terrific starter. He's an underrated pitcher. There's no question about that. And his numbers, first and second time through the order, are quite good, particularly first time through the order. Abbreviated numbers from last season, because I think you have to factor this in, that it was a short season. It didn't begin nearly on time. But nevertheless, first time through the order, 184 batting average, 226 on base, three low threes on base, slugging percentage, 523 OPS. Those are great numbers. And his career numbers, first time through the order, are quite good. So are Garrett Cole's, not surprisingly. They're basically about the same as Ryu. So based on those comparisons, you'd say that there's value in Ryu. And I don't disagree with that. Here's the problem with it. You look at this Yankee lineup, and whether it plays out this way remains to be seen. But it looks like it's going to be a lineup that scares the living daylights out of any opposing southpaw. I mean, this is a righty-heavy lineup, and it is loaded. Now, ballpark actually favors lefty pitchers somewhat, so maybe that's a counter to that. But I don't know that I'm going to be anxious to take anybody who's a southpaw against this Yankee lineup right now. Nevertheless, I think that it's priced a little bit too high. You'll always pay some kind of a premium when it comes to betting the Yankees. They're an extremely public team, especially when they're good, and that's the case here. So I think it's a bit overpriced, but I don't think I can go with Toronto, even though there does appear to be some value on that side.
Bryan, what are you thinking here? We got the Jays and the Yankees squaring off. First game of the MLB season. Would you look to bet this one?
Possibly. I want to talk about a couple of the stats that I use. I know Steve Merrill always talks about taking road values in handicapping, and I agree. But there are certain teams that play better at home than they do on the road, so you also have to keep that in mind. One of the things I take a look at is WRC plus, which is basically runs created plus, which means it's all evened out depending on what your home field dimensions are. And so basically it just makes it even for everybody. It's a nice round number of 100 is league average. Last year, there were only 11 teams that had over a 100 RC plus on the road, which tells you the teams hit better when they are playing at home. That's why you have a home field advantage. Even though if you don't have fans or if you have limited fans, you still get the last at bat. The situation with Toronto and the Yankees last year, and I'll be using last year's stats as of now, only a 60-game sample size, but you've got to come into the season with some kind of backstory on the stats you're looking at, because they're all small sample sizes. The Jays had a 106 WRC plus versus righties. The Yankees 97 RC plus versus lefties. Now keep in mind, as Dave pointed out, this Yankees lineup is very good versus lefties, but last year the big bats had a lot of injuries. The big right-handed bats for the Yankees did not play many games last year, and that's why they're actually looking at 3% below league average. So you have to take that with a grain of salt when you take a look at that. Also for the Yankees, the closer will be out the first two games for his suspension. And the main setup guy, is still out with an injury. So you're not getting the full Yankees bullpen here. Now, I will say these are two starters, and we're going to see this a lot, where you're going to see guys on limited pitch counts coming out of the gate. Ryu and Cole are guys that are already ramped up. They're going to, if they could go 100 pitches, they'll go 100 pitches in this game. Not too concerned in that regard. That said, I agree. I think there is a little bit of value here on Toronto. I always like to look for Cole because you know what you're going to get out of Cole. But Ryu has performed very well. He's the clear ace of this Toronto staff. And anytime you're looking at an underdog catching over 150 in a game with the kind of talent that Toronto has, it's always going to pique my interest. And it's not a play for me today. I only have one play up on the site for the early games for Thursday, but I do have an interest in Toronto. I think there's a slight edge there, and depending on how this line moves, I may end up getting there.
Yeah, good points there, Bryan. Especially the players being out against Toronto, some of last year, some of their bigger bats. Guys, I'll tell you, though, I like this Blue Jays side. I mean, at plus 164, market's pricing the New York Yankees, the Toronto Blue Jays at only winning this game at, 37%? My numbers showed a lot higher here. And using 2020's numbers, you guys focused a lot on the hitting side for the Yankees, which was below average against lefties. Now they're having to face a good lefty in Ryu, 67 innings pitched just last season, 2.69 ERA, 3.01 FIP, 26% K rate. I think Ryu's going to have a decent game here and hold the Yankees lineup at bay. So I would look towards this big plus price on the Rays. But guys, let's move down the list here. Let's move to the NL East. Atlanta versus Philadelphia. Next game up, we got Max Fried, the lefty, going up against Aaron Nola, the righty. Pretty evenly priced game here, Bryan. Seeing mostly Philadelphia Phillies, minus 107, minus 108, slight favorites here. Total of 7. This total looking a little low, Bryan. And in a hitter's ballpark, interested in your opinion, not only total, but sidewise.
Yeah, I'm not a totals guy, but this was one that jumped out on me. There's a few on the opening day card. If you take a look at last year, Atlanta 126 WRC plus against righties, Philadelphia 118 WRC plus versus lefties. Of course, you always have to take a look at how these teams, what their starting lineups were last year in regard to lefties and righties as opposed to this year. Sometimes you lose a big bat in the lineup. Sometimes you add a big bat. But Atlanta raked all season long against righties and Philadelphia against lefties. Philly offense, there's nothing wrong with the Philly offense. It's the Philly pitching staff that I have my concerns about. But that's a situation here. You mentioned it, sitting there at 7 minus 15 to the over, or 7.5 to the under at minus 125. I haven't checked the weather yet on the early games for tomorrow. I know the Washington game is supposed to have some weather concerns. So we will see. Maybe it's just very cold there, and that's one of the reasons why it's a 7. But you always want to catch up on the weather. There's many good apps out there, many good websites that give you the information from a weather standpoint. You always want to check that before you place your final bet. But I think Atlanta's the better team. Atlanta, from a hitting standpoint, is a better. But we're not getting a lot of value here on Atlanta. I think the better spot right now is taking a look at the over. DraftKings just got hit a little bit on the over. I don't know if it's from anybody watching the show, but I think you may not find this number come tomorrow if you're looking to play the over in this game. 7 to me is a little bit short.
Yeah, that's the way I saw it at first glance as well. Dave, what are you thinking here? NL East battle on opening day.
I really like Max Fried. He emerged as one of the best lefties in baseball last season. So his smaller sample numbers, which are just from last season, are much better than his career numbers. And I put a little more weight into the short numbers than the long numbers, simply because I think Fried is starting to peak as a pitcher. The Braves are loaded, and they're a better team than they were a year ago. If nothing else, they're going to move Acuna to right field now because Pache is just a tremendous defensive center fielder, and he'll hit enough to justify his spot in the lineup. But I think overall the Atlanta lineup is actually better than it was a year ago. Their bullpen looks like it should be okay. This is a powerful team. Philadelphia is, as we did in the preview show, I think they're a bit of a mystery team. They're going to hit. If the bullpen improves, which it almost has to, they could be a pretty good baseball team. The top 3 in their rotation look to be pretty good. I like Nola, obviously. I think Wheeler's solid, and I think Zach Eflin took some steps forward last year and will be a good number 3 starter. I'm not so sure about the back end of the rotation, but you can say that about a lot of teams. I think Atlanta's a little bit ahead of Philadelphia overall. I think it's priced about right. There does seem to be some money coming in on the Phillies side. If this gets to the point where I can get plus money with the Braves, and that remains to be seen, we've still got a good 24 hours before that decision has to be made. I might take Atlanta if they're even money or plus, thinking that it might be a bit of value on the Fried side, even though I have full respect for Nola. As of right now, though, it's a pass for me.
All right, Dave. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Atlanta is the look here. I'd like to give them a plus price, but pretty much pick 'em price right now. Number 1 lineup in all of baseball last year, guys, against righties. Handedness of pitchers, something that I put a lot of emphasis in. It had a 852 team OPS versus righties. Aaron Nola obviously coming from the right side. And like Dave said, Atlanta, that lineup, very, very strong. So I look towards the Braves in opening day action. Guys, we got NL Central up next, but reminder, we do have a promotion code here for the show. First pitch 200. If you type that in for MLB full season, it takes $200 off. the full season package for any handicapper at WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com. Dave and Bryan being great selections there. First pitch, 200, all spelled out, is the coupon code. Heading to the NL Central up next, Dave, we got the Cardinals and the Reds. St. Louis and Cincinnati squaring off here. Flaherty and Castillo, two righties going after it. 7.5 being the posted total as we're looking at it now. And another competitively priced game here, Dave. We got Cincinnati minus 115 as the money line favorite in this one. What are you thinking, Redbirds and, well, I guess Redbirds and Reds here in the NL Central, Dave?
Well, I think you got to look at the starting pitching here. And Flaherty and Castillo were two of the best pitchers in baseball first time through the lineup last year. Flaherty's numbers, 151 batting average, 235 on base percentage, 342 slugging percentage, which is outstanding. 537, I believe, was the OPS. And then on the Castillo side, the numbers actually even better in some regards. A 124, is that right? 194 batting average. I have trouble reading my own writing sometimes. I still do this longhand with a blue pen, by the way. 269 OBP, 296 slugging percentage, 564 OPS. Anytime you get OPS numbers under 600, those are impressive numbers by the pitchers. So these two guys were really strong first time through the order. Now, career numbers, not quite as good. Flaherty, 607 OPS first time through the order. Castillo, 623. They're still above average, but not quite as dominant. So it depends where you put the stock. If you want to put it more on last year, then you'd have to look at this as a very live under first five possibility with the starting pitching dominating for 3 innings. And then we'll see after that. But, generally speaking, if you're looking to play totals based on starting pitchers and keeping the bullpen out of it, what you want more than anything is their first time through the batting order stats. Because if you can get through the first 3 innings, the first time through the lineup, 1-0 or 1-1, chances are you're going to cash the bet more often than not, even if there's a bit of decline second time through the order. So that's the way I would be looking here on the Cardinals and Reds, is the first 5 under, which will probably be, let's see, based on well, I can actually punch that up. I don't know why I'm being so lazy here. It's 4. I would lean under there. Not a play for me because I'm probably not going to do any totals on the first few days of the season. I want to kind of see how things shake out. But I would certainly lean to the first 5 under 4 between the Cardinals and Reds.
All right, I like it, Dave. And Bryan, I mean, two good pitchers squaring off opening day style. What are you thinking here?
Yeah. The only concerns I have, I'll make the concern. It's a hitter's park and it's a day game.
Yep.
That's something you always have to take into account. I do want to make a few generalizations before I handicap this game. First off, being that nobody's playing today, the bullpens will be fresh. You always want to keep track of who's available in the bullpen, how many pitches they threw the previous day. On opening day, you're going to get freshness all over the place. And in both of these teams, the back of their bullpens are excellent. The Reds and St. Louis, everybody seems to be healthy. And so if you're worried about playing a full game as opposed to the first 5, maybe it's not a concern here. When you're looking to read, The Athletic is just a tremendous source. And I know they make you pay for it. It's like, I don't know, $50 a year. It's well worth it.
Yep.
If you are handicapping any sport, The Athletic is just tremendous. They do a lot of fantasy stuff on The Athletic also, and they're all excellent writers. I talked about using our WRC Plus. Last year, out of the top 10, 5 of the top 10 teams in WRC Plus made the playoffs. But one of the things I also take a look at is hard hit percentage.
Mm-hmm.
The World Series champion Dodgers, 43.3% hard hitting, the most in the league by far, by almost 6% over San Diego. But the top 7 all made the playoffs: the Dodgers, San Diego, Atlanta, Oakland, Tampa Bay, Chicago, and Houston. If you hit the ball hard, you can't react. Even if it doesn't go over the fence, you can't react. That's the future of this: barrel rate and hard hitting. And if you can get a pitcher that keeps the opposition from hitting the ball hard, that's a guy you can make a lot of money on, because most people will look at velocity. So that's just a few things for your own personal handicapping. when I'm taking a look at this game, and it's been hit on, the Cardinals had a 92 WRC plus versus righties last year. The Reds 96. So they're both below average versus righties. And so I agree with Dave. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. Once again, you have to take a look at the weather. An afternoon game in Cincinnati, I'm assuming is going to be pretty cold, even though it is a hitter's park, but make sure you check the weather before this game goes. I think the game is priced correctly from a side standpoint. I have these two teams virtually equal. I have these two starters virtually equal, and the bullpens pretty much equal. So this is your clear pick'em game. And if one team happens to score a run early, and you like to play some live betting, if it's something that you like to do, you may like to play the underdog at a plus price. But watch the game, see how the game's being called by the umps, and it's something I'll be looking at since every game will be on TV, and it's just a great day to watch baseball.
I want to mention, by the way, that Bryan mentioned bullpen usage. Site I use to get that info each morning is baseballpress.com, because what they do is they list, I think it's the last 3 days for the entire bullpen. So you can very quickly see what the pitch counts were and garner some value in many cases in terms of knowing which teams might be really short-handed in the bullpen as opposed to which ones have everybody available, all hands on deck. That's a really valuable tool. It doesn't cost anything. It's 2 clicks and you get the information. So we'll throw in a little plug there for baseballpress.com.
Baseball Press, yes, I like it as well, Dave. Second that. And what baseball weather? For weather, wind direction, very important. Bryan, I do have a question.
I'll give you a site for that. I'll give you a site for that too. DailybaseballData.com. You can get 2 things there. We're trying to save people clicks. You can get the weather, and you can also get batter versus pitcher numbers, which is not something I use to any extent because I think it's kind of random. But if you like that kind of stuff, dailybaseballdata.com, another page you should bookmark and use free of charge every day.
You know what other website you guys should use? WagerTalk.com, the live odds screen. I'm looking at it right now, guys, showing all the movements. It's free as well, the openers and all different kinds of sports books, both offshore and in Vegas, and the DraftKings type sports books, which interestingly enough aren't in Las Vegas. But yeah, each and every day, guys, check it out for all the MLB lines, really all the major sports lines as well.
I got to mention something real quick because I tweeted out earlier that I posted 2 plays for Thursday. And as I mentioned in the promos at the beginning of the show, they're both up for $19. And somebody replied by saying, well, you must be betting offshore because none of the Nevada sports books have first 5 odds available yet. And it's like, yeah, no kidding. I think I've mentioned about 100 times now that Nevada's not exactly first in line when it comes to getting betting numbers out there. They are for some things. The Westgate is spectacular when it comes to the NFL. I think Circa pretty much beat everybody as far as college basketball goes. But you want as many outs as possible. And yes, I am very happy to use offshore entities to get my bets in as quickly as possible. So the answer to that was yes. I'm not waiting around for Nevada to put up first 5 numbers. I don't even know if they're up yet, to be honest with you. That's the name of the game is getting to play in at what you feel is the best price, and for that you sometimes have to go outside your state.
And during the regular season, do you normally get first 5s the day of the game? Correct? They're not overnights, right?
Yes, that's normally the case. But in this case, we've got a full day before the games take place, and the numbers were up in many locations, and I just decided, okay, let's bet them now.
All right, Dave. Well, guys, we got one more game left. The Sunshine State battle here: Tampa Bay Rays, Miami Marlins. We're seeing Glasnow versus Alcantara. Another good pitching matchup. It is opening day. We're seeing a lot of talented pitchers here. The Rays, the American League champion Rays, as the favorite, the road favorite here, -145 on the money line. Dave, we're seeing totals wise 7.5 and 8s available. But what are you thinking here? Rays and Marlins minus 145. Rays as the road favorite.
Well, it's an interesting matchup because Tyler Glasnow, look, there's no question about his stuff. He is top level, but he's in a different situation this season than he's been in at any time in his major league career to this point. In the past couple of years, he was not the number one in the Tampa rotation. That was Snell and then Morton. Now he's ascending to the throne, so to speak, and it is a different situation when you're going to be constantly matched up and priced as the number one starter as a team. We'll see how he responds to it. I'm not casting doubts that he'll live up to the billing because he's got great stuff, but it's still a different situation. Alcantara is a really interesting guy. He's good. He came up basically as a two-pitch pitcher, and the thought was, well, we'll see how he does as a starter. He might be better off long-term as a reliever, but that's not turning out to be the case. He looks like a quality number one starter on this team. I don't know that he's. I have him graded as a high 2 overall, but he certainly is the best. And actually, the Marlins have a couple of guys that I like quite a bit. He's one of them. Lopez is another one. I like the guy. And here's one where I think now I do think the Rays have, on paper, a clear edge in the bullpen. So this is a game that I would definitely be looking first 5. But I think based on the first 5 numbers, first time through the batting order numbers in particular, I think you've got some value here with the Marlins, who are being disregarded, and I would include myself in this as somewhat of a fluke last season. They're not going to be a winning team this year, and they'll probably finish last in their division. But one thing that I'm pretty confident about is that at the top of the rotation is pretty good. Alcantara had really good first 2 times through the batting order numbers last year, especially the first time through the order, actually better than Glasnow's. So generally speaking, when I can find the first time through the order underdog with better numbers in that first time through the order category, I'm usually going to be pretty interested in taking them. I don't want it full game because I want to eliminate the bullpens as much as possible. But in this situation, about plus 130 on the first 5 with the Marlins, I think that's a really nice little value play. So we'll go with the Marlins first 5 for the selection here.
All right. I like it, Dave. And Bryan, what are you thinking here? Last game we're going to talk about before best bets in the Sunshine State here, Rays and Marlins.
I'll talk about the game in a second. I do want to touch on something that Dave talked about with the betting standpoint. That's the reason why we're doing this game a day ahead of time.
Yep.
You see, we got more time to get in on the overnight lines and try to get these lines before they move. Everybody I know who bets for a living tries to get in on the openers. The openers are weak. The more people that get involved, by the time the game goes off, the line's pretty much where it should be. So we're trying to get this information out as soon as possible. I love how we're getting the days plays in for tomorrow early. I think that's a big help for everybody. But and also the Vegas casinos are behind. I mean, you'll find your Circus, your Westgate, your South Points. They keep up on it for the most part. But your others, they just put up something day of the game and they copy from somebody else. So it's tough to get that information in Vegas. And to be totally honest with you, if you're able to play offshore and you're able to play at either a Pinnacle or maybe a Matchbook or somebody like that where you can get less juice, if you're betting for a living, why would you play in Vegas? My final thought about Vegas is if you win, you're going to get banned. So Vegas is so far behind right now in the way they run things. You don't even have to live to Vegas. Back when I moved out here in 97, I wanted to be here for, number one, do promotion, do radio, that kind of thing. But I also wanted to bet. You'll rarely see me in a sports book, number one, anymore because, number one, well, they have apps. And number two is you just don't find the value in the sports books in Las Vegas that you did in the past. And a lot of guys are moving away.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt for a second, Bryan. From an aesthetic standpoint, there's no place better on the planet. We're still absolutely the best place to watch games and have fun. Vegas is number one, and I hope it stays that way forever. But from a pure betting standpoint, well, that's a different story.
Yeah, there's guys now moving to certain states just because of the sports books that are there, and we don't have those sports books in Vegas. So yeah, there's major advantages to being one of these guys, who just being single and being able to travel wherever you want. Okay, that rant is over. Now we're going to get back to the Tampa Bay Miami game. We talked about both these teams a little bit in the last couple of days. Looking at WRC plus, the Rays had a plus 105 versus righties last year, so they're 5% above. Miami was 89. They were 11% below. Dave's right. Miami's probably going to come in last place in this division. But this is a damn good division. It's not like being in last place in the National League West, where you only have two good teams in this division. This is a quality division, and Miami has some quality players, especially from a pitching standpoint. Tampa Bay is a team that a lot of people are expecting a lot of. They're coming off a World Series situation. They're a popular team, even though they've lost some key players. And nobody wants Miami. Everybody thinks Miami was a fluke based on last year. I was very happy to see Miami and these young players get a chance to make it to the playoffs. I think they learned from that. Dave likes the first half in this game. I understand. I like the first half also, but I also like the full game. I don't think the back end of Tampa is that much better than Miami. I think that Miami has value in the first half and in the full game. I just think Tampa's a little bit overrated. I'm surprised this line came out as high as it did.
That's
Yeah, Brian, I'm with you. I haven't heard
out.
anybody talk about Miami Marlins as a positive. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I'm sorry I spoke over you, Drew. That's my fault. But I think the Rays are maybe a little bit overpriced coming into the season because they went into the World Series last year. And by the way, we always talk about World Series hangovers or Super Bowl hangovers for the team that lost the Super Bowl. It can happen in baseball too. I would not be shocked if the Rays, I'm not going to say fall apart, because I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's too many good pieces, and Kevin Cash is a good manager. But I would not be surprised if they struggle a little bit, at least early in the season. It's tough coming off a World Series loss, just miss, especially one where there were some doubts left at the end of the World Series because of the Blake Snell thing. I think the Rays might be a bit overpriced coming into this season. But that won't last long, because if they do stumble out of the gate, the odds makers are smart. They adjust very quickly.
Yeah, good point there, Dave. And guys, we got best bets coming up. But just final reminder here on the coupon codes. We got first pitch 200, guys, takes $200 off. Any MLB full season package. We also got the special with Bryan Leonard and Dwayne Bryan at WagerTalk.com, 2 for 1 with the MLB full season package. You can grab that at WagerTalk.com. And today is the last day that it is valid. And also Dave Cokin, you get his MLB full season package. You get the NHL as well on the house. But let's go around the horn, guys. We're up against it time-wise, but we got best bets. Dave Cokin, lead us off, buddy.
I mentioned one of the games I'm betting tomorrow, and it was nice to hear that Bryan is alongside me in that one. I'll mention another game for the best bet. And this one is not on my card. But I like the game, and I want to talk about the pitcher for a minute. That's Brad Keller of the Royals. And again, looking at these first time through the order numbers, maybe it's a little fluky, but Brad Keller last year was absolutely incredible. First time through the order, a 129 batting average, 235 OBP, 271 slugging percentage, and a 406 on OPS. Those numbers are incredible, and it indicates that he's a well-prepared pitcher coming into the game. I think Kyle Gibson is he is going to be the worst number 1 starter on any team. I've got him as a number 5 starter, and he's the number 1 on the Rangers. Big price, but even at the big price, I think the Royals will win at least the first 5 innings of this game.
All right, Kansas City in the first 5 from Dave Cokin. Brian, what about you? What do you like in best bet here for the opening day slate?
Yeah, I really wanted to play Kansas City. I'm surprised the line came up that high. I'm not surprised. It should be that high.
Yep.
It's just I was surprised that they opened it that high, and we're not going to get the value that we expected. I'm going to take a look at the Minnesota-Milwaukee game. 2 pitchers, Maeda and Woodruff, love both those guys. Minnesota last year against righties, or 108 WRC plus, 8% better against righties. The Brewers against righties, only 84. They were 16% below versus righties last year. Now, I have to mention, from a Minnesota standpoint, Nelson Cruz is the DH. They obviously won't be using the DH in the National League this year. I'm not a fan of not using that. I've seen so many pitchers screw up a game by batting. Just ask Zach Gallen what he feels about that. But you're not going to have probably your best pitcher, or excuse me, your best hitter in the lineup for Minnesota. Now, he'll bat once. They'll bring him in as a pitch hitter, but you're not going to get 4 at-bats out of him. So you got to take that into account. But I take a look at this game, and I've got Minnesota as a legit team that if they ever win a playoff game, they can win the World Series. It's a small sample size what they've had. They keep running into the Yankees, and the Yankees are like poison to them. Hopefully this year when Minnesota makes the playoffs, they can at least get around where they don't get to face the Yankees first off. But I like Milwaukee. I like Woodruff, but I think Milwaukee's a fringe playoff team. Minnesota is a definite team that's going to win 90 games. And you're getting them right now with Maeda, who's just been fantastic. I think the line's a little bit short. I like Minnesota in this contest.
All right, Bryan going with the Twins. Guys, I'll finish it up here real quick because we hit it at the top. Toronto Blue Jays plus 164. We got Ryu on the hill. The South Korean, 67 innings last year, 2.69 ERA, 3.01 FIP, and a 26% K rate. I think he will have some success. Garrett going up against Garrett Cole is a tough opposition here, but with that plus 164 price, got to remember, guys, we're into baseball season, money lines now. You risk $100, and if the Toronto Blue Jays win this game, you get 164 on the kickback. Also throw in there the Yankees last year against lefties were below average. So I'm going with the Toronto Blue Jays. Big underdog price, plus 164. Guys, make sure to check out Bryan, Leonard, Dave Cokin at WagerTalk.com. Also, enjoy opening day. We'll be back same time tomorrow. WagerTalk YouTube channel, on Twitter as well, for First Pitch, breaking down the night games. So come back and join us. Best of luck with your bets, guys. Thanks for tuning in.